Good morning, everybody, and welcome, or good afternoon if you're watching the replay. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Evelyn Knight. I am the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast and the CEO and founder of Childcare Business Professionals, which is a company that helps childcare business owners and directors find success while achieving high-quality, research-based standards for the children. The focus for me is always the children. That is just the most important component for us, is making sure that we're bringing high quality to the children. But I also realize that we have businesses to run, and we do need to be successful in those businesses in order to take care of our staff and to really give the children the best that we possibly can. So welcome. I'm also a childcare owner. I have my own center also, so I know what it's like to write payroll checks just like you guys and to have people relying on you for that. I totally get it. I am there too. If you haven't listened to my podcast, go ahead and check it out. It's the Childcare Business Coach podcast. You can find it on all of the major platforms. I'm on Spotify. I'm even on Alexa. It's pretty cool. So you can ask Alexa to play my podcast. So welcome. Thank you for being here today. Let me know that you're here. Give me a hello if you're live, or a hashtag replay if you're doing the replay. So I know that you're here. It gets lonely on this side. I love the interaction. After the videos, I do go back and check for questions and whatnot, and I do try to stay up to interacting with you guys. And so today, I wanted to talk to you guys about finding your value. And one of the things that's really caught my attention through this pandemic and through COVID is how many of you are struggling with charging for tuition when parents aren't there, or when you have to close down, or whatever's going on. Hi, Jennifer. Nice to see you. So that's something I really wanted to talk to you about. I see it so often, that question, just over and over again in the different Facebook groups and people who reach out to me for my podcast, is just how do you deal with charging when you have to shut down due to COVID, right? Whether you have to shut down your entire center, or if you just have to shut down a classroom, or if a child is out, whatever, right? How do you deal with that? So this is something that I had in place in my center since before the pandemic. This is just a lesson I learned years ago, that in this industry, something that really takes a lot of childcare centers out is not charging when a child is absent. That is a big deal. And I'll tell you, with the owners I work with and just all the people I work with out there, it is one of the biggest things that I see bankrupting people. Payroll is number one, probably. People don't know how to manage their payroll. So that is probably the biggest thing that I see bankrupting childcare centers, is number one, payroll. The second thing, though, is like just being consistent with your charges, right? Just that consistency in charging. And that is like, just, there's a lot to that. That's just, it's more than just what I'm going to talk about today. There also is just discounting yourself to death and whatnot. But one year, I decided to really look at like the credits you give for children that aren't in attendance, right? And one year I realized that this cost me on average almost $1,000 a month. And it was just crazy to me. And so as I started to really think about it, I looked at like the private school system, right? K through 12, that's private school. Everybody just knows you enroll your child and you pay the monthly tuition, right? You pay it regardless. Your child could be sick for the whole month, but if you want to stay enrolled in that private school, you pay your tuition. And that is just common sense and common knowledge. So why is that different in our industry? Why should it be any different, right? So that's when I basically completely changed my mindset. And that is where the shift really happened for me. I realized that my program is a pretty valuable program. What we've put together is amazing, to the point that, you know, I have my state and different organizations trying to duplicate what we've created. So I realized that my value isn't in when a child is there, it's in getting a spot in my childcare center. And that's when I changed how I thought about my center. And let me tell you, at the time, this was before I got to the point where I had a wait list and my center was really successful. When I really started to see our value, the value that I created in this childcare center that I owned. And you guys have to really see that when you have your center, whether you're a director or an owner, we put these programs together, right? This is something that we've created. You have to look at your center and see the value in what you have created, the work that you've put in. When you understand that, you need to change your entire thinking about how parents are paying you and what you're providing. Okay, so that's when I changed our policies and basically went through my parent handbook and just added a bunch of different disclaimers in there that parents pay for enrollment, not for attendance. So whether a child is there or not, they're paying. If they want to keep their spot, they're paying. I'll tell you, through this pandemic, I've had parents pay for 6 months when their child hasn't been in attendance, where they've kept their children home and quarantined due to COVID, but these parents have become so afraid to lose their spots that they continue to pay the tuition. And at one point we did lower it to 50% after parents are paying for a couple months worth of, and not even showing up, we decided, okay, let's lower it to 50%, give them a little bit of a break. We can't take as many children as we could anyway, since, just to keep the social distancing and the group sizes that COVID has put on us. So I'm going to give them a break. But if they really want to stay, and I'm not going to give their spot away, then they have to pay. So what you really need to think of too, is you need to think in terms of, you only have so many spaces in your center, right? You cannot sell that child's spot to somebody else just because they're not there. If a child needs to miss 2 weeks because they're sick or whatever, you cannot sell that spot just for 2 weeks, right? It's very rare that you can find a child to take that slot for 2 weeks. So from a business perspective, you need to think in terms of, I am reserving that spot at my center for this specific child. Doesn't mean that you're providing this only, of course you're providing the service, but it doesn't only mean that that parent is paying for the service you're providing. What that means is that they're paying for the spot that you are reserving for them 5 days a week, regardless if that child is there or not. Your expenses don't change. Your power bill is still the same, right? You still have to pay your staff. You're still buying the food if you're providing, like for my center, we do provide meals. I didn't know that child wasn't going to be there, so I still bought the food for that child, right? I still have to run the power. I still have to pay my staff. My expenses don't change just because that child isn't in attendance. So why should your income change just because that child isn't in attendance, right? That parent needs to understand that they are paying to reserve that spot in your center, not because their child is there. So when you have that mental shift and you start understanding that, you know what, that spot that I'm selling is very valuable. I have created a program for each individual child, and that program is too valuable for me to cut myself short by not charging people who aren't there. You are paying for the value that I've created and that spot that I reserve for your child, right? And that's when you really want to just teach it to the parents. And yes, Suzanne says, put it in the handbook. Absolutely. I have it in my handbook in 3 or 4 different places. And I did have my lawyer look it over, make sure that it's enforceable. And he looked over my entire handbook, and basically he did agree that, yeah, the way I have it written out in my contract, and even I have an acknowledgement page in my contract where the parents sign off on just this acknowledgement page, right? And basically it takes the policies from my parent handbook that are most either contentious with parents, or the parents the things that they try to get away with the most. I summarize it, and it does say, like, this is just a summary, please see parent handbook for all policies, but they even sign that piece of paper, right? So when they argue with me, or if they try and say, well, hey, I didn't know, all I have to do is pull out this sheet of paper, say, see this line right here? See your signature right here? It's right here, right here. You pay the 2-week notice, all of that. All those items that parents tend to argue with us the most about are all on that little sheet that they sign. So just like, see number 5, it's right here, and look, your signature's right here. So it really takes away that ability for them to argue. But we don't want our parents to not be happy with our service, right? We want them to be happy. We want them to be comfortable. So more importantly than having it in our parent handbook is that we need to have this set up in an educated format for them, right? So what we've done is we have our orientation, and during our parent orientation, we explain this to the parents. We really thoroughly explain that they're paying for enrollment, not attendance. And we explain why. The reason we do this is because at this point, the parents, are happy, they're excited about being at the center. We're not dealing with this issue during a time of contention, right? You don't want, just like with the children, so much of what we do, the rules that we apply in the classroom and how we teach the children work for the adults too. You know how in behavior, we're always saying, okay, you don't want to deal with a child when they're escalated, right? Because everything's just going in one ear, out the other. You can't get through to them when they're in an escalated state. It's the same thing for the parents. We cannot get through to the parents when they're already escalated, right? So you don't want to educate them during a time where you're already arguing with them and they're escalated. You want to make sure they understand this and know when everything is calm, the relationship is good, and everybody's happy. If a parent is facing something and they're already upset and they're trying to get a credit with you and they don't want to pay because their child's not going to be in attendance, that is not the time to educate your parents on the fact that you charge based on enrollment, not on attendance, right? You want to do that before, just going in. Right. One of the things that I do, and my clients have a copy of this. So I see a couple of my clients are on here now. You guys can go into our memberships group and download this. But during the tour, my price list actually has a summary of all of our policies and procedures that affect the parents the most. It's actually our most contentious policies and procedures. And it also, it's all basically industry standard, right? But we tend to forget that our parents don't know our industry. We know our industry, but they don't. So what we know is, well, everybody just does it that way, right? Like, let me think of something that everybody does in our industry that may seem, like the 2-week notice. Or like a 2-week or 30-day notice in order to drop your child. A lot of people are like, what? Why would I have to give a 2-week notice? But that's just industry standard. At all childcare centers, you can't just not show up tomorrow and expect not to pay, right? We all do that. So I just have a sheet with my price list on top and then a summary. And during the tour, we actually explain to the parents, like, hey, this is our price list. And I tell them straight up, I like to be upfront with you. I want you to know exactly what you're getting into before you sign your contract with me. So these are the policies that affect parents the most, that they really, that you will need to know going in. And I will tell you guys, we have so many parents who sign up because they love our honesty and upfrontness, right? They love that we gave them that courtesy, that before, who reads a parent handbook, honestly? We've had a couple over 15 years that I've been an owner of centers and in-home provider, but how many, honestly, are going to read your entire parent handbook, right? So that summary page, so they can look it over really quick. And I do qualify to them. These are all basically industry standard, but I just want to make sure you understand. I understand that you don't know my industry standards. So as a partner in your child's development and growth, I want to make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. So here's a quick summary, right? So before they even sign the dotted line, we are educating our parents on how things go. And you guys would not believe how much parents appreciate that. That is one of the big things that parents will come back and say, wow, well, your honesty was just so refreshing and you were so upfront about everything. It just built that trust early on, right? So they have it there before they even sign on the dotted line. Then we go into our orientation and we're going to reinforce it again. But we're going to help them to understand why. why is my program so valuable, right? So they're already enrolled with us at the point that we do our orientation. But with our orientation, I'm telling them, like, you know what, look at all the wonderful things we do. These are the awards we've won. This is what we're going to do for your child. And again, I'm reinforcing, why did you make such a great decision in bringing your child to my center, right? I'm showing them the value of my center. But before I could show them the value, I have to understand my own value first, right? In the program that I created. So you have to believe in that program first. My director has to believe in my program in order to sell them on the value, right? And I hate to even use the word sell them, but it is what we're doing. We know how valuable we are. We know how valuable our centers are, but we do have to educate our families in understanding that, okay? You have to know, what is your center's superpower? Why are you the best? What is that uniqueness, right? Why is it that they want to pay for enrollment instead of pay for attendance? What is that motivation factor in there? What makes you special and so valuable that they want to do this? I'm at the point now in my center where I can say, you know, like, people come in, it takes them at least 9 months to a year to even get in the door with us, right? So if they're waiting that long to get their child enrolled with us, then it's definitely worth their while not to lose their spot. They know there's something special, right? But we want to educate our parents on what is special. I'm actually putting out a podcast episode later today that you guys should listen to that also goes into this in a lot more detail. It's actually on referral marketing. And basically, I have an incredible guest from the Unstoppable Entrepreneur on the episode with me. And her and I talk about how that value piece actually helps you get referrals. So not only is this a way that you can help parents understand why they want to stay with your program, why they want to pay regardless, or not even question it, like not even question paying for enrollment instead of tuition, right? But it also helps you with your referral marketing. I do not pay, I pay very little. I do pay for some marketing in certain areas, but a lot of times the marketing I pay for is more donation, like to our local high school football team or things like that. But I don't really have to advertise a whole lot because of word of mouth, right? But how do you get that word of mouth? And we talk a lot about that in that podcast episode that I'll be releasing today. So make sure you guys check it out. So I'm not going to get too much into it. But again, it's by helping your families to understand your value. When they really understand how valuable you are, when they really are in love with your program, they know how wonderful things are, they will tell their friends, right? They will tell their friends. They will be happy to pay tuition, regardless of whether their child is there or not. And so that's where you guys have got to know your value. Look at it, and you guys know. I mean, when I say that, I'm sure something comes to your mind. What makes you better than your competition, right? There's always something, right? My competition excels in something different than I do. And not every parent is going to be a good fit with my program. Some parents are going to be a better fit with my competitor's program. It's just knowing your value so that you attract the right customer for you. You keep them. That's so important. Enrollment is only part of the key, right? Once you get them there, we got to keep them, okay? So that you don't have that revolving door. And then when you keep them, you have them tell their friends, right? Now they're going to tell their friends. So that's where value, you've got to know your value. So look at your program and really just say, like, that's where we shine. I have, my staff has been with me for an average of over 5 years. That's huge in our industry. The turnover rate is huge, right? So that's somewhere. Or, like for my center, that's actually true for my center. And also I'm a 4-star quality program, and a lot of different things that we have that I know we've worked really hard to achieve. So know those things and brag about it. Don't be afraid to brag about yourself. That's something that is, I don't know, our society teaches us, oh, you can't brag and whatnot. But when you're in business, you have to. You've got to learn how to let that ego go a little bit, just pump it up a little bit and have pride in your center. Absolutely love that center. Have pride in it. And don't be afraid to brag about yourself. I get it. In our personal lives, we're taught so much. We're not supposed to brag and whatnot. But when it comes to your business and your center, you've got to be able to brag. And you have to know in your heart that value, because when you know it in your heart and when you understand how valuable you are and how valuable your center is, then you will actually be able to really help other people to see, and they will want to be a part of it. They're going to want to join you. They're going to want to be with you. They're going to want to stick with you no matter what. But you also want to make sure that they understand, right? So when you're telling parents that they're paying for enrollment instead of attendance, at first, if you just say that, like, oh yeah, you guys signed up for enrollment instead of tuition, that can be a little off-putting for some people, and they may not like the idea. They may not really resonate with that. But if you help them to understand why, you've got to help them to understand the why. I say it over and over again, right? If you listen to my podcast and this, I'm sure I tell you all the time, when you're counseling your staff, help them to understand the why, right? When you're with children, help them to understand the why. I go back to this all the time. Understanding your why is vital to whatever you're trying to accomplish out there. When people understand why, they are so much more receptive, right? They are so much more receptive to listening to you. So let's see. Suzanne says, love us, refer us, share your truth. Absolutely. If you know your truth and you love your truth, then it's going to be easier for you to share it, right? And then it's going to be easier to help your families fall in love with you. And when they fall in love with you, they will refer you, right? They will tell their friends and family. I'm going to be doing my live workshop next week on increasing enrollment in your childcare center. I was supposed to do it this week, but everything going on with my husband's health, I have to push it back a week. I just wasn't ready to do it this week. But that is something I'm really going to teach a lot more on next week, so mark your calendars on that. I will definitely be talking a lot more about that next week. About like just really knowing your truth, knowing what your childcare center's superpower is, and really embracing that. If that's something that you're having a hard time really putting your finger on, if you just don't know the industry well enough, if you don't know what your superpower is, or you just feel like you need help running your center, let me know. Send me a message. That is what I help coach my clients with. I'm sure some of my clients will tell you we have a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Like actually in 30 minutes, I will be doing open office hours for my client, where my clients will basically be able to just jump on a Zoom call with me and pick my brain. That's what I do every morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, every Monday morning. I do it a couple days a week actually, but Monday mornings at 10 a.m. I just jump on for my clients. They don't have to be on the whole hour. They can just jump on anytime between 10 and 11 Pacific Standard Time, pick my brain, and then on and off. Some of them stay for the whole hour because they like to hear the questions that everybody asks. Some of them just jump on for 5 to 15 minutes during that hour. But I basically make myself available and we just sort out issues. We just brainstorm together. One of my favorite things about it is I have such amazing clients. Some of my other owners that are out there, that mindset that we all have together, right? And when you get that group think tank going, it is so powerful. So it's just awesome just to have so many great owners where we can come together and just sort through our problems together. It's awesome. So if that's something you're interested in, send me a message. I'd be happy to chat with you to see if you would be a good fit for my coaching program. That's just one of the things we do. I do weekly trainings. I do, actually, like I said, a couple office hours. I also bring guests to do monthly trainings. Pretty much everything I talk about, like my orientation that I just talked to you guys about, I have an entire training that spells it out, shows you how to do it. I give you mine. You can duplicate it. My 6-month new hire training program, I've done a training on that. That is pre-recorded also. You can watch that training, take my program, and make it your own. So if there's any of that you're struggling with and you would like to talk to me about, I would be more than happy to chat with you about becoming a member to my group. And remember, next week, I will be here every day at this time next week to bring to you guys my enrollment strategy. It's going to be how to enroll children in your childcare center every day next week. It is a lot. So it's a free workshop I do about two to 3 times a year. I bring to you guys every time. I change it up a little bit to bring you some more information. So that will be happening next week. So I hope everybody has a great week this week. I know here in Northern Nevada, the weather is going to be beautiful after having a lot of snow, which I absolutely love. I don't mind the snow either, but this week we're gonna have some amazing hiking weather. So I'm looking forward to that. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I will see you guys same time next week, but I'll be here all week next week. Bye.